being that her favorite snake was rattlesnakes, like, of course, I was going to talk about rattlesnakes, and I generally talk about them at least a little bit at each birthday. Make sure, if you ever see a snake, you take 3 steps back, go tell an adult, and there is no bad snake. They're just scared. And I was going through explaining all this and how, like, they have ecological, benefits. And the grandmother came over and physically hit me in the head.
Oh my God. I met today's guest because she filled out my reptiles and neurodiversity survey and wanted to talk with me more about how reptiles benefit her as someone with neurodivergence. But it turned out to be a much juicier conversation than I expected. Ash's path with herpetoculture is pretty unique. Starting off as a reptile enthusiast, her interest in genetics inspired her to start breeding ball pythons until ethical concerns made her leave breeding behind to pour her energy into reptile educational programs. She now has a business called Sierra Scales Exotics, which not only aims to bring science-based education to the general public and classrooms, but also to incorporate snake therapy into her services. As that first clip shows, her local community is somewhat resistant to her efforts, but that's not stopping her, and she had a lot of great insights to share about her experience both in education and as a neurodivergent caretaker. Unfortunately, we had some slight sound quality issues with the recording, but I hope you still enjoy the conversation as much as I did. Make sure to check out her website in the description below. Comment with your thoughts and hit that like button before you go to help support the channel. And if you're interested in doing even more, become a member on Patreon to help me continue to make content that amplifies diverse voices and important issues in herpetoculture. Let's slither on into it. Hi, welcome, Ash. I am so excited to get a chance to speak with you today. We are here because you filled out my reptiles and neurodiversity survey, and you had some wonderful insights that you shared in your responses. But also, once I reached out to you, it turned out that you have a very fascinating story arc of your experience with reptiles that got me really excited to explore more deeply. So, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Super excited.
Well, let's just start off by having you give us, basic background on yourself and how you started working with reptiles and what animals you currently have in your family.
Okay, yeah, so I'm Ash. I started with reptiles when I was a kid, pretty much like everyone else. My dad had a pool cleaning and building business, and when I was really young, I'd go to work with him when I wasn't in school, and it was my job to pull out all the little critters that got caught in the skimmers, and it was generally frogs or lizards or toads or, just kind of the stuff that nobody really wants to deal with. And it was in the Bay Area, so a lot of rich people that really just, they didn't have frogs in their pools. So that was kind of how I first just kind of like sparked that like coping, I guess you could say, like mindset. Um, and then we would go camping every year, and I'd be flipping rocks and logs and catching snakes in the river. And yeah, so that was kind of how the interest started. I got my first real pet reptile because I had like lizards and stuff like that that I'd caught. But my first real reptile that I had gotten from a pet store was a leopard gecko named Freckles. And I was around 11 years old when I got her. And I definitely probably did not take the best care of her when I was younger. And back then, like, the internet wasn't really a thing yet. So, like, I was going off care guides from the pet store, talking to pet store people. I was fortunate enough to live in Walnut Creek, so the East Bay Vivarium wasn't that far away. And I used to pop in there, and get cool supplies for her tank and, like, little decor stuff. That's where my enrichment stuff came from. Yeah, I know, I love that place so much. So She was my first reptile. I had her for 21 years. And
Nice.
she, went through college with me. She went through everything with me. Buying our first house, like she literally like was through it all with me. She would be like my little like homework buddy, art buddy. I'd be watering the garden with her on my shoulder, cleaning the house. Like she was my bud. Um, anyway, so back in 2019, I had been going through some medical stuff, and well, the medical stuff has been ongoing since I was 11, but it was a lot of chronic pain and a lot of like just stress, depression, just a lot of that stuff. And I have ADHD and generalized anxiety on top of that. So kind of like a nice little trifecta of. So I kind of had always wanted a pet snake. And my mom was always like, I don't think you're gonna like a pet snake. I don't think you're gonna like that. You're gonna have to feed it mice and they're baby mice and they're cute. And like, I don't think you're gonna want to do that. And like, to her credit, I'm a very sensitive person. So I see where she was coming from with that. Side note, I worked for the Forest Service for 10 years and I started in wildlife biology. And one of the things we did was survey for owls, and you use mice as part of that. And after seeing how nasty and dirty and just awful mice are to each other, not even just like to you, but like to each other, I was just kind of like, yeah, I think I can handle feeding a snake. I got this. Feeding mice to owls, I can feed it to a snake. So I got my first ball python after doing a lot of research. I kind of, as a kid, like snakes were cool. I loved garter snakes. I loved like, the little ones I'd find in my yard. We have sharp tails, all kinds of stuff here. But I was still a little nervous about bigger snakes. Like I didn't have that understanding, education. I hadn't really put effort into that. But for some reason, something had told me, and like in my brain, just like, I want a snake. Did my research, got my ball python, fell in love, was absolutely obsessed. Like, obsessed. I would just be sitting in front of her tank, like staring at her. And granted, I was like 20 years old. No, let's see, 2020, 25. And my boyfriend would be like, he'd like almost talk to the snakes like, you do realize you're gonna be like the most loved snake on the planet.
Oh.
Like talking to the snake, there's the cutest one on both. So I went down the rabbit hole of, looking at genetics and looking at all of the different morphs and variations and all that stuff. Got really excited about breeding. And I happened to enter a Black Friday raffle on Facebook back when that was a thing, and somehow won a ball python, another one. So I was just like, whoa, okay, now I have two. This one's a male. Like, I'm gonna look into breeding. This is cool. Like, the genetics are cool. And it kind of just spiraled into a giant educational journey from there. The one I had won was an Inferno, which has hidden gene woma, which most people know has the wobble is part of the spider complex.
Mm.
And luckily, I didn't breed him. I found that out as I was kind of taking care of him, and I started noticing that he was a little different than my first snake, Nyoka. He would kind of like, he'd get really excited about food, and he'd like do this thing when, he was trying
Mm.
to eat. Like he couldn't hone in on like where the food was. So I
Mm.
kind of realized that, did a little more research, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna breed him. So then it was a banana mystic hip hide, because at that time I didn't really, again, this was a lot of learning. I didn't really realize the whole hip thing. And I eventually got there. And then I ended up with, I believe I had 35 ball pythons. Yeah, of all different genetics. I was going for coral reefs. I was really into GHI. I also really wanted to try to do, so there's this one that's all black, but it doesn't have any like issues. And it's called the Abyss. It's mahogany. It's been a while since I thought about this stuff. I think it's, or no, Suma GHI. So double mahogany GHI. That makes an all black snake. What I wanted to try to do, and what my like biggest ambition was before I just kind of stopped breeding, was to try to get that in pied and get a black and white pied that didn't have any neurological defects or any kind of health genetic issues, because I'm very in the frame of mind that like we shouldn't be breeding animals that have genetic defects or are going to have health issues and not thrive in a pet home, because what's the point? Like, other than money, there isn't one. So that was my goal. And as I went through that process, I learned about Nido the hard way. I took on a rescue that had Nido and accidentally contaminated my favorite other snake other than my first snake, and also my boyfriend's favorite snake.
Ah.
And spent about $2,000 trying to figure out what was wrong before I ran into a podcast, which shout out Hold Back Greg podcast. They're amazing, or just as amazing. I literally would have lost all of my animals had I not found that podcast, because I hadn't heard anything about nidovirus at this point. And like biosecurity, nobody really talked about it. Everybody hid nidovirus like it was just this big boogeyman that didn't exist. It was like a story to tell new breeders, like it was ridiculous. So I learned that that's what was happening, got her tested. First test came back negative, and I was like, huh, that's weird. So in my brain, I was like, she has to have Nido. Like, we've done antibiotics for months. And I tested her again after she passed away. Like, literally, like, swabbed her that day. Like, the next swab, it came that day she passed away. And sent it in, and it was positive. I was like, okay. So then I tested everybody else, and it was the rescue intake I had taken from an actual rescue that since I believe has gone out of business, because I definitely made it known that they need to not be selling animals. So that was my breeding journey, because from there I kind of was like, this is so insane that like there's so many people that aren't being super careful of their their biosecurity. They're not testing their snakes when they get them in. They're just breeding them. And like, I don't want to be part of that. That's not something I agree with. And like, I did it. Not everybody can like spend, whatever the shipping cost is, like on every single snake every month, but like once a year. Like, I still test my snakes. Like, I'm not even breeding. I'm just trying to be proactive.
Mm.
Because once you go through that, that is a horrible thing to watch an animal go through. Um, I did end up having my first clutch of ball pythons just because I had this one female I had taken on. She had a really bad belly burn and scar and respiratory infection when I got her, and I healed her up. And she was my only adult female, and she was super friendly. Like, she had great personality. So I was like, okay, we'll see if we can breed her. So like, after 3 years of pairing, learning, trying, making my incubator, all that good stuff, I finally got my first clutch, learned all the different things through that, experienced hard belly, experienced temperature fluctuations with the incubator, experienced all of the fun things that come with, breeding. And like, the science part of it is what like really drew me in. Like, I like science, I like parameters, I like guidelines. Like, that was very appealing. And like, that part of it I loved. Like, it was awesome. All the data. So I got my first clutch. And then realizing when I went to go post them on Morph Market how many ball pythons are on there and how it just doesn't feel like most of them are ever really gonna find, a great home. Like mine, I ended up not selling. I think I only sold like two on Morph Market. The rest of them I found either local people or people I knew and made sure that they went to really good homes and had, the proper education. So that was kind of my origin to the education, which is kind of long-winded, but it was a journey. There was a lot that I went through to get here.
That's quite a journey.
Do you want to like go over the species you have? And
Yeah, so I've got 7 ball pythons, a juvenile bearded dragon, 2 white tree frogs, the sea versicolor tarantula, 2 California toads. One only has 2 legs. A chorus frog with a defective eye, and he was like born. It's like shrunken and like points right away. He's so cute. His name's Squumps. Um, the rubber bat. I've got a regular California king snake, California mountain king snake, Pacific gopher snake, 2 Kenyan sand boas, 2 Homahara blue tongue skinks, 2 coast garter snakes, 2 chocolate millipedes, a bunch of isopods, different kinds. I breed isopods. They're really cool. I love those.
that's a lot. That's a lot of variation. I love it.
Oh, I recently took on a abandoned tegu.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, somebody dumped it down the street from me. It's been
Oh my
through
God.
all over. It's very
Wow.
stunted, very malnourished. I've been taking care of
Wow.
it for 3 months now, and I didn't even know it was a male till now.
Oh, well, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, he's special.
Let's go back to, you already said that you have ADHD, and some depression and some other stuff, but can we dive into a little bit about like how your brain works, what makes it weird, unique, and how that kind of connects with your relationship with your reptiles?
My brain is, honestly, I'm going to be 35 next week and I'm still figuring my brain out.
That's a constant
Um,
process, let me tell you.
but I've learned over time, like, there's certain things that, like, really, really trigger, like, just overstimulation, frustration. I get really frustrated when I'm overstimulated and, like, almost angry. And it's one of those, like, one of those things where like you're out in public and like you're experiencing these things, but like you have to keep it together. Like you're not society doesn't allow for that. Like you can't just get frustrated and like be angry and explode because you're overstimulated, because somebody's chewing too loud next to you, or because the fan is blowing and it's like the sensation of the fan blowing and the person chewing and like the TV going, and it's just I get overstimulated by really silly things. So that's like one of my biggest frustrations that I have been dealing with for as long as I can remember.
Mm.
But I'm also just very sensitive, very empathetic, and my brain likes to sit there and like a lot of times it's more of a pain than anything. It's not really helpful, but sometimes like it is a benefit because like I'll overthink something to death until I figure out a solution, or
I think the empathy thing, um, that's definitely a common thread that I see in a lot of neurodivergent people that I've spoken with, and definitely with myself. Sensitivity and empathy are a big part of that. And that when you are that sensitive and empathetic, it's a challenge because there's so much and it's really hard not to take it on. But at the same time, it can make us be good caretakers, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, it definitely can. I get a lot of times asked, like, how do you take care of all of these animals? Like, how do you have the capacity for that? And it's like, I just do. I don't know. Like, it's how my brain works. And like
But
that part of it,
it feeds you, right? I mean, it feeds me.
yeah, like just the taking care of them part, like making sure they have enrichment and water and food and their parameters are right. Like just that alone, like is so grounding and like therapeutic. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just
Yeah.
my thing. I don't know. When I get really frustrated, like if I was again working for the Forest Service, I just recently left because of a lot of things going on and
Mm,
just wasn't really what I thought it was going to be when I started 10 years ago. I was hoping
mm,
for something that I could make a difference in, at least for my local forest and wildlife and conservation efforts. And that just wasn't the direction that things were heading. So I took the deferred resignation. I don't know if you've heard about that, but
mm,
took that to start my own business and I'm working from home. But when I was there were a lot of times I'd come home just really frustrated because of everything. And my boyfriend, he'd come home and I'd have one of the tanks like torn apart and like putting new plants in it or like, amending the substrate or doing something with isopods or like just kind of like tinkering. Um, and he'd be like, rough day, huh? Like, mhm. So like it's a very telltale sign. We've been together 14 years, so it's just a very telltale sign that like something's wrong when I'm really dived into like some aspect of my caretaking because I have so many different variants. Like there's always one that needs something, so it's like okay, go work on this.
we can vent that in a lot of negative ways. But if you think about it, um, tending and caretaking as our way of venting that stuff is probably the most positive way you could do it. I mean, it's like absolutely therapeutic. It is
Oh, for
absolutely
sure.
therapeutic, and you're nurturing while letting go of these things. I want to go back to something you said because you're saying like, well, we can't be a certain way in public, and I mean, generally speaking, that applies to everybody, but for neurodivergent folks, and for those people who aren't listening, there's this thing called masking, where we feel like we must wear a mask to cover up who we really are because it has to fit in a typical world when we're not typical. That's masking. And you specifically said something in your responses to the survey about not having to mask around reptiles. And I've heard this before. I feel it. I feel like with mammals, you still kind of have to be a certain way. You have to talk to them in a certain way. You have to be a certain way for them to feel like they respond to voice tone, they respond to facial expression, they respond to all of that stuff. And there's this difference with reptiles. What is that to you?
I have two dogs and two cats as well, so like I definitely like you're right on with that. I'm not sure what it is with reptiles, but it just feels almost more. It just doesn't feel like they're really paying attention per se. Not in a way of like they're not intelligent, but that kind of like I don't feel like they pick up on kind of energy like say a dog or a cat would.
I would say they do pick up on energy. Personally, I think they do, but
Hmm.
it's not necessarily like facial expression.
Yeah.
That doesn't affect them. Whereas they can sense your pheromones, they can sense your heart
Yeah.
rate, they can sense all those things, and they may respond to it. But what they're
Yeah.
not asking you to do is to say certain things, to make a certain expression, to not be sad or angry or whatever. And this is just, I don't know, this is just my theory, is that lack of pressure to do that from them makes us want to, it brings us down a little bit, because we do know that in order to interact with a snake, especially, you have to be calm so that
And
they feel
present.
safe. Right.
Hmm.
You have to be calm and present for them to feel safe. They will know if you are upset, and some may react to it, and some may not as much.
Yeah.
Um, but they're not making you.
Yeah.
You know,
I yeah.
you choose, and when you choose of your own accord, and you don't have to change what your face looks like. But it's like it just naturally brings you down, and no one's telling you you have to. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I have had the hardest time trying to explain it to people and like, because like I know that they can sense things. Like obviously they can sense things. Pretty much what you just said though. Like, and then it really helps actually having those words because like I've tried to explain to so many people like this can be therapeutic. Like just try it. And they have, and they completely agreed. Like I have that when I went on a raffle, I'm actually going to be rehoming to a good friend because I don't want to use him for programs or anything. He's so sensitive, and with everything I've got going on right now, I just haven't had enough time to like really interact with him as much as I would like to. And because he doesn't go on programs and stuff, he doesn't get like as much interaction. So he's going to be going with one of my new friends, one of my good friends, and his girlfriend or wife, significant other, initially was terrified of snakes, like terrified. She walked in my house and she saw like my whole living room set up. I have three 4x2x2 set up for one for my ball python and then two other ones for my two blue tongues. And she's like, oh, this is a whole like situation. Her words, packed words. She's like,
Really weird.
okay. But then she saw my ball python Naoka and like she shivered. Like she just shivered. She's like, I don't know what, like it's just she's like, it's an instinctual reaction. Like I have no control over this. Like it's just instinctual. I was like, okay, I get that. Like I get that with earwigs. Earwigs are my bane
Me
of my
too.
existence. I found out recently they could fly and it made me want to cry. Like I just I hate earwigs. I was like, okay, why don't we, start with something small and just kind of like you can, just experience like what a snake is, like what it actually is, like to help your brain get that perception of what it is corrected. And I have a baby rubber boa. For anybody that doesn't know, those are a very docile, very soft, like almost leathery feeling. They have very
Mm.
small scales, slow moving, gentle, just like the perfect introductory smoke. And she's literally like this big. So you
Mm.
cannot be scared of her. Her name's Bazooka because when I found her, she was pink, like bubblegum. Yeah, I love her to death. Anyway, so I brought Bazooka out and I was like, okay, when you're ready, let me know. And you can hold her because she was like kind of just petting her for me. She's like, okay, I think I'm ready. And so she put her in her hand, she curled up around her finger, and she just like, you could tell, like, her brain was just like processing this like transition. It's weird seeing it happen because, like, like in your brain, like, it will happen,
Mm-hmm.
but it's weird when you can like see it happen. So after that, she was ready to take a look at Pyro, my wobbly guy, and the good friend of mine held him first, and was checking him out. It's mostly going to be his snake that he's going to hang out with. He works from home. Um, he just wanted like companion. And he's like, "This is so cool. I'm so excited." Like, and she's kind of looking at it like apprehensive. And he's like, "Do you want to try to hold him?" And she was like, yeah, let's do this. Like, we're going to do this. And she was holding him, and you could slowly just see like her posture just change. You could just like see like the shift. Because he's a full grown male ball python. So he's smaller. He's not like a super big ball python. But she even like started talking about like feeling different muscle movements on her arm, and like the gentle squeezing, and like the tongue flips, and the coolness, and the texture of the scales, and just all of the
Mm-hmm.
sensory aspects. And by the end of like half an hour, she's like, "Yeah, I think I'm good with this. Like, let's do it. Like, we're good. Like, I can do this." I don't know. It's crazy because like we feel it, and trying to explain it for me personally, like I have the hardest time explaining it. And when you see it, when you can like physically watch it happen, is one of my favorite things on the planet. I've converted at least 10 people now. They were completely anti-snake.
Yeah, that is the
So
best feeling ever to experience that. I mean, I went through it myself because I was terrified of snakes, terrified of them until I was about 18 or 19. So having gone through it myself, of that like I had a complete shift, and it didn't take long. It was pretty instantaneous. I can empathize and have compassion for people who haven't come over to the side of the light and understand that process, but watching it, then it never gets old. It really doesn't. So was that experience before or after you became an educator and started your business? You have a business, Sierra Scales Exotics, right? And it's now, I mean, I looked at your website, it's amazing. And it's got all these educational programs and everything. Like, how did that happen?
that kind of transpired as I was kind of going through the breeding journey. Weirdly, um, it just kind of happened through. There would be like, for some reason, everybody felt the need to tell anybody I met that was new that they were introducing me to that I had 30 snakes.
Wow.
That was the thing. That was the thing. That was me. I was the crazy lady with 30 snakes. And almost, I'd say at least 90% of the time, the other person was like, "Oh, I hate snakes. Oh, I don't do snakes. No, you're crazy. You have that many snakes in your house." Like 90% of the time. And I think it personally, not personally in the fact that like I felt like they were trying to insult me, but I was like, "You're missing out. Like, you don't understand." So I kind of started going down this like trying to get like more people just kind of like get it, or at least like acknowledge it, that not all snakes are dangerous or evil, or none of them are coming out to get you. Like, realistically, like there is no snake in the world that is sitting there waiting in a bush waiting for somebody to attack. Like, that is not a thing. So I started making just kind of like these little like care infographic things for like ball pythons mostly, because I get a lot of people that were friends that had a friend or recently got a ball python or whatnot, that would be like, I know you really like are into this, like, can you help me kind of figure out the parameters and everything, because I know that PetSmart, Petco, or whatever, like they don't know what they're doing.
Mhm.
And so I kind of went down that educationally, and at the same time I was working on like the understanding aspect, like the therapy aspect. Because I had a coworker at the time that was like, no, absolutely not. I do not do snakes. You're insane. Like, what's wrong with you? And so at the same time, I was kind of like working on like care and enrichment education. I was also working on like just basic, you need to educate yourself about snakes education. What actually really just led into all of this was actually kind of due to that one friend, and just she was my first like real experience of someone who is absolutely vehemently against me. It's like, just no. And now she owns two. Like, she got two from me. When I decided I wasn't going to breed anymore, I found homes for all the ones I had, and she ended up taking two of them. And like, she'll send me pictures of them on her lap or around her neck. And now she's trying to get her mom to enjoy them, because her mom's the same way she used to be, which is something that I'm interested in looking into, is the generational and
Like
societal.
nurture, yeah,
uh,
nurture versus nature, and the
yeah,
societal kind of
yeah,
ideology, and mhm.
just kind of how that just perpetuates through families and stuff, because like it's interesting, especially in the area I live. So I live in a very small rural community where um not the highest education, unfortunately. I grew up in the Bay Area. I moved up here when I was 17. So the contrast was very evident to me. And like, I'm not saying that to be judgmental, just from like an interactions and experiences point of view, they don't have a lot of understanding of like the natural world, past like farming, agriculture, ranching, that kind of stuff. It's a very like rural community.
Mhm.
So
So a good
I'm
snake is a dead snake kind of situation. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. So one of the other things I do is rattlesnake relocation and
Mm.
education. Anytime I post like, hey, like, rattlesnakes are out and about, just heads up, if you find one on your property, like I can come get it and relocate it. Like, just call me up. I'm generally available. Or, I can come out if you've seen one in your yard before and you want to have it checked out to see if there's anything that's attracting them. Like, I can help you like navigate and mitigate anything that would make them want to come into your yard and, set up shop.
Do you talk about like coexisting, and how, you
Yeah,
know,
that never goes over well.
mm,
Unfortunately, in this community, I don't think that will ever be. I mean, I'm working on it, but I don't know if that will ever be a thing. They're just so in their way. I've gotten to the point where, like, trying to get through to them that killing a snake is going to increase their chances of getting bit far more than on just existing on their property. But
mhm.
it's just overwhelmingly like most of the people in the community are just like, no, uh, any snake I see is dead. It doesn't matter. I don't care what it is. It's dead.
Mm.
Dead. And that was one of the other things that kind of led me to education was like in California, we don't have coral snakes, but we do have California mountain king snakes, which are a tricolored red, white, and black snake. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, a lot of people kill them thinking they're coral snakes. And it just breaks my heart. I had somebody come to me when I was at work one day and show me a picture of one that they killed, saying, "Oh, we found this coral snake on the trail and we took care of it. We just wanted to let you know it was there." And I'm like,
It's amazing to me that that could go through someone's mind of like, oh, this person loves this animal. I know. Let me show them a picture of one I killed. Like, what?
it's well, and that's the other thing. I have a very much a love-hate relationship with my community. So the other thing they'll post when I put out the rattlesnake education and like relocation stuff is they'll post pictures of ones they've killed
Oh,
intentionally to try to get a browse out of me. And I'm just kind of like, okay, your point is, what are you trying to gain here? I don't understand. Like the mental process. You see that I'm trying to educate and like help people understand things that they are scared of. And instead of just scrolling if you don't agree with it, you're literally posting a picture of a dead animal that you killed, probably didn't kill correctly, and it suffered for I don't even want to know how long.
mhm.
For what?
Yeah.
So that's been something I've been navigating,
Mm, that's
tiptoeing
challenging.
through, trying to figure out the right way of dealing with it because Facebook, everyone sees it, and it's in like the local group that like everybody communicates on, and if you say something and you're a business and it's a small community, like you're done.
Yeah.
It's just been a crazy path, honestly. Like there's just been so many different things that kind of spurred me into the education. So I
So
mean,
for Sierra Scales, it's, you have your rattlesnake relocation stuff, but you also do, educational events where you bring your snakes to schools, parties, whatever it is to do.
I wanted to make it to where it wasn't just like your average like guy with snakes that goes to school and like, oh, look at my big snake. It's outreach. Don't get me wrong. There's a place for it. And I'm not knocking anyone who that's their thing. It doesn't have a lasting effect, I feel. So what I've been trying to do is look at education standards, look at science in particular in STEM, and look at ways that I could incorporate different reptiles into lessons. So science lessons. So like for instance, genetics. Just looking at like different ways genetics apply, to these animals or adaptations or camouflage, whatever. And it's mostly geared towards like between first and eighth grade. So I'm looking at what's called the next generation science standards, and I'm actually going through and making curriculum that is focused and centered around either one of the reptiles, amphibians, or invokes I have, or some kind of project that encourages them to get outside and go look at
Mm.
like nature and find, something in nature. I feel like that has a more concrete, lasting, applicable effect. Like it will actually like make a connection in their brain that next time, they're out at the river, they're going to be thinking about, oh, garter snakes, like they can be poisonous and venomous because they eat California newts, whatever. I just want these random little like tidbits to pump through their brains, like let's be aware of everything and like know all of these intricate little things that are so amazing about our ecosystem. So that's just the school program stuff. Birthday parties are more, just like these are the animals, this is what they do, this is where they're from. The kids always want to know their names and um,
Hmm.
hold them, touch them. And all the animals I have, I've kind of selected for certain characteristics or personality traits or whatnot, so that even with the birthday parties, I can still incorporate some of just the basic kind of education as far as like snakes are good, not all spiders are scary, just that kind of stuff. So like my tarantula, like I was gonna get a native tarantula, and I was like, it's a big, fuzzy, brown and black spider. I love them. Most people, though, are not. So I got a sea versicolor, which is one of the very bright blue, purple, red, shiny, pretty, blingy tarantulas. And I've definitely noticed that has helped. Like some people, like, okay, like that's a cool spider. Like that's a spider that I think I'd be okay with. And just like that one little connection can help open a door to like look at things completely different.
Yeah, it's always about sparking that bit of wonder that, and if it happens to be a visual aspect to the animal that is absolutely hard to deny how beautiful it is. It's hard to be scared of something when you're like, holy moly, that is beautiful, right?
Exactly.
That's why, the first thing I do when I take my Mexican black king snake out to events is to show her belly in the sun and show the rainbow,
Mhm.
and no matter what, people are like,
Yeah,
wow, you can't deny. And once that wonder gets in there, even just a little bit, it breaks down that initial wall. It breaks the fear cycle, even just a little bit. They may not want to hold the animal, but that's okay. They're looking at it in a different way than they were before.
exactly. And that's going to get built
No.
on, whether they realize it or not. That is going to get built on. Their brain is
Hmm.
transitioning and like learning and unlearning.
Yeah, and that education is so, so crucial, especially starting it young, because we'll have kids that their parents taught them that snakes are dangerous and
Mhm.
that they're scary, and maybe not even maliciously, just it's just so ingrained, and they'll show up and the kids will be like, I hate snakes, I don't want anything to do with snakes, and an hour later they're like, snakes are my favorite animals. If you get them young and you get them like that,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah,
The rest of their lives, that's not a thing. They're not going to teach their kids
no,
to hate snakes. You break that cycle.
exactly. And that's what I've been working really hard to try to do here. One of the biggest indicators that it's working was at I did this little girl's fifth birthday party, but her favorite snake was rattlesnakes. And like the little girl inside me was just like, I just want to like just want to love you. Like you were so cute. Oh my god. Like she had a stuffed rattlesnake with like a little rattle tail. I was just like, oh my god, you are adorable. So being that her favorite snake was rattlesnakes, like, of course, I was going to talk about rattlesnakes, Like, and I generally talk about them at least a little bit at each birthday, just working it in, getting it in the thoughts, like, hey, like, make sure, if you ever see a snake, you take 3 steps back, go tell an adult. Not every snake's a bad snake, and there is no bad snake. They're just scared. If you think about like an alien coming into your house and like just coming up to you while you're in bed, how would you feel? You'd be scared. You'd probably want to bite if they tried to grab you or, whatnot. And I was going through explaining all this and how like they have ecological, benefits, and the grandmother came over and physically hit me in the head. Not hard, but enough that I was like, did that just happen?
Oh
Like
my God.
I was processing. I'm like, what? just happened here? Like, it took me like maybe an hour before I fully like really clicked. Like, she just came over and like hit me on the head because I was teaching these kids like
Oh
science
my God.
that her opinion apparently didn't agree with. It was
What
wild.
did you do? What did you do?
I, for the sake of the kids, I just kept going. I tried to make eye contact with the mom, but I don't, it was one of those situations where it was a first and I really wasn't like, again, like my brain just really was not processing. Like it was just so shocked. And like the kids saw it, and I felt like after that they were a little more like dismissive, which was kind of a little frustrating. But just that interaction alone is enough that like really like emphasizes like how ingrained this is in people's like brains and like personalities, I guess. I don't even know what you would call that.
That's just unacceptable no matter what. I mean, she assaulted you at
Yeah,
a kid's birthday party in
yeah,
front of
in
the
front of
kids.
children.
Like, it doesn't matter what you were doing, that's not acceptable. But wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's
I'm
the
blown.
kind of community I'm working in.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to swivel us here and ask you, what is one of your favorite moments that have happened? Something magical. I know we had the one in the beginning, but like some magical experience that you've had or moving experience that you've had of an interaction between you and your reptiles or with during your educational programs that's good.
Um,
Let's balance this out.
honestly, weirdly at the same party.
Really?
Yeah, there was this little girl. I suspect she was nonverbal autistic, but I never had a chance to talk with her mom or anything. But the entire program, she was kind of like coming in and out. Like she was definitely interested, but also like you could tell there was that hesitation, like that like fear and like apprehension. And so she'd like when it was touching time for certain animals, like she'd come up and she'd look and she'd be like just like you could tell like she was really nervous. And then she would like run away really fast. I was like, okay. Like she was like maybe 4. So throughout the program, like I had always like I put the animals in my hand and kind of like have the kids in a semicircle, like you can touch with 2 fingers, don't touch the head, whatnot. And when I would get over to wherever she was standing, I would just hold it there for a little second longer, just offering like if you want to think about it for an extra second, like that's okay. And she would never, you know, actually touch. She'd like reach her hand out and then like retract it. So that went on for 2 hours, and it was hard for me to watch just because like I would have loved to just work with her one time. Just seeing how like there was that literal like instinctual interest. Like she was really interested, but she was also really like it was so conflictive in her brain. So at the end, I'm putting up the animals, putting them all in their little travel containers. I normally put my big ball python, like she a big one. I put her in last because she's the biggest, and like the kids like to, look at her for a little long. And so I'm kind of putting her away, and the little girl kind of starts walking up again. And she kind of walks up, and she's, like five or so feet away from me, just watching. I'm like, okay, I wonder. So I took my big girl and just kind of like held her in my lap. I was just sitting down, stroking her. Like, look, do you want to try to pet her, or do you want to come closer and have a closer look? Like, you're safe, you're fine. Like, she's not gonna hurt you. And she came a little closer, and she was just kind of like, watching. for a minute or two, and then she got closer. Okay. And at that point, I kind of pick her up off my lap and, kind of put her on my arms, and she kind of starts cruising up around towards like my shoulder. And so I'm like, she's literally like a dog. I can like pet her head and rub her chin. Like she's amazing. And so I'm doing that with her, and the little girl gets closer. I'm like, okay, I think this is going to happen. And so I bring her back down to my lap, and I put her kind of like in my arms, like kind of cradling her and like kind of offer her like towards the little girl, but like not super close, just enough to like, the invitation is here. If you want to come closer and accept the invitation, you can. And at first, she kind of like backed up just a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, no, it's fine. You don't have to. Like, you're good. And then when she saw that response, she's like she just like, you could tell, she's like, no, I really want to, but like, and she actually ended up speeding up, and I put the snake on the floor between the two of us. I was like, let's just see what happens. And the snake started kind of going towards her, just like real slow. And I picked her up because I didn't want her to like really traumatize this poor child. Like I didn't know what level we were at yet. So I kind of, redirected her. And at this point, I was like, I really need to get going. Like, this probably isn't going to happen. I started kind of like, just picking her up. And I was going to start kind of putting her back in her tub and like, say hi. And that's when she stood up, walked over, and pet her.
Hmm.
I was just like, oh, okay. She pet her. I'm like, how does it feel? Like, do you like it? And she like nodded her head. And I'm like, okay, well, do you want to try to hold her? And she was kind of like thinking about it for a minute. And like, she really didn't do eye contact. She'd kind of just like look at the ceiling. And like, finally, she kind of like looks towards me and does this. I'm like, oh, all right. Like, I'm gonna have you sit down, and then like we'll put her on your lap. And like, so she sat down and put her on her lap. She was just biggest smile. Like it literally almost made me cry. And I don't know where the parents were. Like it was one of those birthday parties where the parents were there too, and like they were, they were having drinks and the barbecue and like doing their own thing. Like I don't know where her parents were, because I was gonna be like, hey, like I would love to, pro bono come over and just let her experience this, because my youngest brother is also autistic. So I kind of grew up with this perception and just kind of like understanding of people with very different, sensory, and I mean, myself included. Um, like I can just kind of tell, and I can tell when things like are helping. And watching what my mom went through, trying to figure out how to help my brother, and the different sensory things that worked for him, which were animals. I really wanted to try to, work with her, but I didn't ever end up finding her mom. But that experience, like, that stuck with me. That was like probably the best experience. Just watching her for 2 hours go from like this skittish, like obviously interested, to like sitting on the floor with the biggest smile on her face, petting my biggest snake I've ever. Like, it was wild. It was just,
That's
it was
awesome.
magical.
Yeah, that is magical. It doesn't even have to be like this crazy shift. There's just these moments of them going from dissociated to not, because of these animals. And that's always such a magical experience to be part of, to witness. So on your website, I saw that underneath your you have a massive list of different programs, and one of them is reptile sensory therapy. So this seems like a perfect segue into talking about that.
So I'm just kind of starting that. Like this whole thing is just kind of now finally, now that I'm not doing my Forest Service job, I'm finally able to like really focus and hone in. So I haven't done any of those programs yet, but what I'm going to be doing is reaching out to like old folks' homes, a lot of the what is assisted living and the like adult homes for people with, different neurodivergence or disabilities. I'm going to be reaching out to them and offering a like sensory therapy experience because I know a lot of them use different sensory tactics and stuff. I used to watch my brother's occupation therapist come with like different blocks that had different textures and different like temperatured things and stuff like that. So I was gonna be like, this is what I have to offer. These are the different like animals I have. These are the different things each animal can like offer. So like texture like sensory, hold. You've got the snakes that have like the grip and the muscular, like almost massage, like feeling.
Weighted blanket.
Exactly, weighted blanket.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of that kind of thing where like it's something different, but it's also something that can like be transformative for some people. Other people, they might just be like, oh, this is really cool. I also just think like as far as enrichment for like old folks homes and stuff, like especially here, like they don't get a lot of
Right.
activities and stuff. So
Right. I'm curious because you're saying you're focusing on like seniors and older people, and yet I would think that in that situation, in that community, it would be older people that would be more biased against snakes. So that might be challenging. I know that, we go to senior care homes and stuff, and there's definitely people that are interested
for
in the
sure.
snakes and reptiles and stuff,
Oh,
but
for
then
sure.
there are definitely folks that are like, don't get me anywhere near that, or they can't even be in the room. And that's here in, LA.
Yeah, I'm going to be
Yeah.
doing it for kids too. I'm going to offer it to the schools and the schools therapists and counselors.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of complicated because I'm going to be working with one of the county programs we have here. It's the art, like the county art association kind of thing. Because I also do art. I'm very art, graphic design, photography, all of that's like my jam.
Mm.
So I got in with them to teach art classes and do like ecology based, reptile based, my stuff, my kind of like interest kind of workshops with them. And they have been going out for a grant to get funding to do STEAM stuff, which includes art and science in schools. So I'm actually going to be getting paid through them to do my education programs at the schools. And so the therapy sessions or like the sensory sessions, I'm not sure where I'm going to categorize yet, but
Mm-hmm.
those with schools and children is probably going to go like kind of in that boat. So it'll probably be more of like an activity kind of thing, or like I bring an animal and we do like some kind of like activity, like put paint on a canvas, put it in a Ziploc bag, and let the snake kind of slither over it, and let them play with their fingers with the paint. And just kind of like that sensory like connecting kind of just
Mm.
experience. As I've seen kids really enjoy that. So anything with paint and a mess, kids love. But yeah, so
Yeah.
that's kind of the direction I'm heading with that. But we're still working that one in. Everything else, I'm trying to get to a now that I have the school stuff situated, I have more time to focus on everything else. So
I love that. And I wasn't sure if, you were going to be talking to therapists, because that's something that I would like to investigate more, especially after putting out all this information and all these, testimonies from people, to connect with therapists and say, like, can you want to involve a snake in your therapy session? I've spoken to a couple people who've had their snakes in their hand during their therapy sessions once or twice, and it's been really good for them. And I know that if you're in therapy and you're talking about some hard stuff, you're going through some hard stuff, having that animal with you could be really comforting, could help you process, could help you express yourself. So it'd just be interesting to see if there were, I know there are some therapists out there that have done this. So I would love to connect with those people. And
I was in therapy, still kind of am. And there were a couple times I was like, it'd be so cool if I could bring my snake. Please. But my therapist was not a snake person. Um, but yeah, I did consider that. I just not having like a PhD or anything, I wasn't sure how serious they would take it. But just opening the door for communication, like you're saying, makes a lot of sense. I might.
yeah, putting it out there, seeing what comes back. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what this all is.
Yeah. It's all experimentation, see what sticks, what resonates.
Yeah. Well, this has been fascinating. Is there anything we haven't touched on yet that you want to share about your journey, or about what goals you have, or think projects you're working on, or anything?
So yes, I'm working on a ball python care guide, like activity book for kids.
Oh.
So it's going to have infographics that are catered to kids with like language they understand, like clean, clear language, and detailed pictures, but like kid friendly. So like the teeth are, like I show it. I have a whole diagram made of the mouth, and like I just kind of softened the look of the teeth a little bit. Like not that they're scary, but I don't want kids to be scared. So it's just very like catered to a younger audience, because a lot of kids, as we know, love snakes, love animals, love, these things, and their parents will get them for them as a pet, listening to the pet store person who doesn't normally know what they're talking about when they send them home with the really bare bones setup. So I'm hoping that this will be a way that kids will be able to kind of advocate for their pet, learn about caring for their pet holistically. It's also going to have enrichment ideas, games and activities. It's going to have trackers. So, like, I fed my snake today. I watered it. I checked, spot cleaned. And then it's going to have like an area to record vet visits and talk about, how vet health, you almost need to go to the doctor too. Um, just all kinds of different juicy stuff that as a kid, like when I got my first leopard gecko, like thinking back, like all the things I would have just been like, oh my God, yes, like this is so cool. So like coloring pages, like it's just
Yeah, I love
all the
it.
information you can want. It's gonna be fun.
That's
And
fantastic.
then
How would you get that out there? I mean, I want to see something like that being put into Petco and PetSmart and all those places. Like, they need to have that, because their information is just either nil or horrible.
yeah, that's the part that's going to be challenging. I am going to self-publish because the publishing world is kind of a mess right now, from my understanding. I had a pretty in-depth conversation with, I'm not sure if you know Jessica Lee Anderson. She does like the dermatology books and some of the other like kids reptile books, but I kind of had a conversation with her like, hey, like, I know you've been in this for a while. Like, can I just get like a little direction, because I've not published before, and she's fantastic. If you have not interviewed her or talked to her, highly
I'm
recommend.
writing this down.
Amazing. Oh yeah, no, yeah. So she's like, yeah, honestly, like the publishing world's kind of a mess. And like the other thing that I wanted to confirm with her, because I had heard, is a lot of times like you don't get to use your own illustrations. Like you have to use an illustrator that you're contracted with or whatnot. So I'm like, nah, I've put too much work into this. Like I'm just gonna self-publish it. But if I self-publish through what is it called? Ingram Spark, I can then cross-publish it to Amazon, and then that way I can actually have it distributed to places through Ingram Spark. Amazon is more of a complicated one. Ingram Spark is more of a, you can, like Barnes& and Noble could pick it up. So that's the direction I'm going with that. And it's going to be a series. So I'm going to do it with a lot of like all the different, crested geckos and, bearded dragons, all the different popular animals that people get and don't quite realize the complexity of and end up getting, either abandoned or just mistreated.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's fantastic. I love it. Oh, I really hope that goes forward, and keep me in the loop with that, because I'm like sitting here like, okay, maybe I just take a bunch of care guys and I just go around and I drop them at the different stores.
yeah, no, that's been such a frustration that like I feel bad for the people that work at my pet store, because they're like, we know, we're just not allowed to do anything.
They're not allowed to?
Corporate won't let them. Will not let them. Because they were having issues with the local one was having issues with their chameleon distributor and them sending them sick animals. And I mean, sending them a sick animal, like the chances are already pretty slim. But even the healthy ones we were sending weren't doing great. And it's just like how they're keeping them. And I was making some suggestions like, hey, like these are some things you can do, to up the humidity or, whatever, make it more of a gradient, whatever you need. But the ball pythons were a mess too. And like, oh, corporate gets involved, and like they have rules for animals there. They did just recently though redo all of their setups at my local one, and they look better. They finally took out all the red lights.
Oh.
So we have one win.
2025. Finally. Oh my God.
Oh, and the hygrometer thermometer is mounted on the wall, so you can see it. Not that they're always what they should be, but
no, the dial ones.
No, they got rid of the dial ones. They got digital. So 2 wins.
Okay. All right.
2 wins. I'll give them 2 wins. But yeah, that's what we're up against is corporations, unfortunately. And
wow.
When money's involved, it's going to take the people that support these places to make the difference. And unfortunately, what people don't know, like that's why it's perpetuated for so long.
Wow. Well, thank you, because I had no idea that was the reason that we couldn't get that improved. So now I have kind of a new mission.
Samesies. We should collab.
Oh, yeah, we should. Well, it sounds like we're going to be talking again. Thanks so much for sharing about your experience, your personal experience, and about Sierra Scales Exotics, which I will put a link down below. Everyone go check out her website. It's amazing what you're doing. I'm so excited for you and your journey, as it seems like you're kind of going into a new phase of your life. So congratulations on that. And I'm really grateful to have connected with you. And I think we'll be talking again soon.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.